You're right. The finance minister has just come out. You can see her there with her red Bahi Khata. I believe if Pallavi is there, we can try and get Pallavi to talk us through these pictures as well. Pallavi, just take us through what you're seeing.
Okay, I'm just going to stay with the pictures. You can just see the finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman. She's got a Bahi Khata. That's her trademark, really. She's presenting, she's very, very clear that please don't call it an interim budget. It's actually called a vote and account. With the entire team, the MOS Finance, Gaurav Choudhury, an entire team of finance secretaries, the revenue secretaries, especially the men who have been a part of the presentation of this vote and account. And what I really would like to say stands out is that lone woman who presenting her sixth budget consecutively, which itself is considered to be a huge record, and a strong messaging which perhaps goes in from the government as well. Their tagline is Shashakt Nari Saksham Bharat. Women empowerment, I think, could be one of the main key points as far as the presentation of the vote and account is concerned. Over the last few days, we have been seeing the Prime Minister himself, the government itself, talking about, how the country also needs to become Atmanirbhar. Women need to become Atmanirbhar. So quite possibly a large chunk of the budget is also going to be focusing on that. Well, she's just going to get into a car, as you can see the pictures, accompanied by her team. And from here, short drive to the Rashtrapati Bhavan. She presents the budget, the first copy of the budget, the vote and account to the Rashtrapati. And again, then she goes back to Parliament. That's where the cabinet meeting is going to take place. That's a technicality, Zaka. The cabinet clears the vote and account. And around 11 a.m. sharp is when she stands up to present the last budget of this government before the Lok Sabha elections or the vote and account.
All right, the finance minister.
You can see those pictures, Zaka, even as I leave with you, that she's got into a car and she's a short drive for her towards the Rashtrapati Bhavan.
All right, I want Gaurav to sort of speak to these pictures as well. Two things. One, the point that Gaurav Pallavi was making, that she's the lone woman, Nirmala Sitharaman, and the rest of the photograph is men, the secretaries, the MOSs. And this is her sixth budget. I mean, you wouldn't have wagered that when she started off.
This is a record. She's also the second woman finance minister. The first was Indira Gandhi, but she presented it when she was the prime minister too. And this is the first time a woman is presenting 6 successive budgets. It's a record of sorts. It's a record in itself. And that is something that, it's going to stay in the record books for quite some time now. If she comes back to power, probably that's going to set the record even higher. She goes back now to Rashtrapati Bhavan and Parliament, and then the cabinet approves it. The cabinet is slated to meet around 9:50, I believe. And then after that, there'll be a photo op also at Parliament as she enters Parliament with the MOS and the secretaries. And after that, the cabinet will approve it. That's a formality, but that's a requirement. And after that, she reads out the speech. It's going to be interesting to see how long the speech is going to be. The last interim budget had about 100 paragraphs, 103 to be precise, I think. And generally, a full budget has about 300 paragraphs. So if you go by that yardstick of 2019, probably you're looking at about 100 paragraphs. So it's about 1.5 hours maximum speech.
The one point
98 paragraphs.
When you look at those pictures, is the stability of that team. I think you'll probably be able to elaborate more on this. The team actually hasn't changed much.
That's true.
And that's quite unusual, isn't it?
That's quite unusual. And also, the finance ministry has a peculiarity in terms of appointment of secretaries. The finance secretary is the first among equals. It is appointed by the finance ministry, as opposed to the rest of the secretaries in the other departments in the government of India who were appointed technically by the DOPT. In the case of finance ministry, all the finance secretaries, the finance secretary is the first among equals. There is no seniority there, and it has remained stable for quite some time. Somanathan is in his 5th year.
Which is unprecedented.
It is unprecedented in recent history, which kinds of tells you that the government believes in continuity. And one of the proximate reasons why investors come or don't come to certain geographies is also because of policy continuity, as explained and articulated by the policy makers. And in this case, the bureaucrats of the finance ministry are as much the ambassadors of the policies that the government of the day is crafting as the ministers themselves. And that is why, Somanathan's stint in finance ministry is going to actually stands out over the last 10 years because of the stability, and also not just the stability of policy making, but also the stability of faces, which is very important, because investors then get to know what is the thinking, that is going on within North Block, which is the primary seat of policy making. In
There
India.
they are, the three of them,
Yeah.
just behind Nirmala Sitharaman actually.
So
Zakat, this
it's
is
the
very
Finance
interesting.
Secretary, the Revenue Secretary,
Yes.
and the Economic Affairs
Yeah.
Secretary. But Gautam, when we talk about historic budgets and the legacies of finance ministers, people talk about the 91 Manmohan budget, the 97 Chidambaram budget. Nirmala Sitharaman has presented 6 budgets, and 2 of them were in COVID years. What is her legacy? How will history remember her as a finance minister?
I think if you want a word, I think she will be remembered as a courageous finance minister. I remember the time, you would too, that during the COVID years,
Yeah.
in the COVID months actually, there was a budget and the entire world was throwing money into their budgets. And there was a big demand from all over India, all across the world, that India should be spending more, India should be spending more. For Nirmala Sitharaman to take a decision that no, this is not the right time, the money will just vanish before we know it, because the brake and the accelerator cannot happen at the same time. I think that was the analogy that she gave. It takes a lot of courage to stand your ground and steer it, and then in hindsight come up right with it, that she did the right thing. So I think courage will be a very important determinant that will define Nirmala Sitharaman. The second would be her 2022 budget, which was quite revolutionary, quite remarkable in terms of, for instance, we were talking about privatization and all that, and not happening. Maybe the targets are not being met, but I think the sincerity of of where she wants to go, or where this government wants to take, in terms of keeping just 6 strategic sectors in which you will have 1 or 2 public sector companies and all others will be disinvested, is a solid stance. The focus on infrastructure, again, a mix of courage and momentum, because of what we see now. Anywhere you go, you see good roads. The last point I want to make is not about Nirmala Sitharaman, but the critique that perhaps she hasn't done enough disinvestment and so on, and there was this target and she hasn't met it. Fair enough. But if I examine it from the other side, the PSUs have done so phenomenally well. Their turnovers, their profitability, their capital adequacy in terms of banking, etc., is so good that in the markets, PSUs are one of the drivers of the market today. They have risen by about 60% over the past 1 year, while Sensex rose about 40 or 20%.
20%.
So I think the fact that she hasn't been able to, whether that's an intended thing or whether it's a happenstance, we don't know. But overall, I feel that if she were to go for disinvestment post in her July budget, in case they do come back, then I think the valuation that she would get for exchequers like us, who are the stakeholders in these companies, will be significantly higher.
Before I go to Gaurav, Mr. Prabhat has been waiting, so I want to bring up that startup number, the unicorns in startups. Before 2014, there were 4 unicorns. Right now, it's 114 from what I last checked. So if we can play that graphic and also bring Mr. Prabhat into the conversation. This has been one area of humongous transformation. There you go, that's the startup story. Up till 2013-14, there were 4. This is before the Modi government came into office. But look at the transformation in the last 10 years. It has now gone up. Overall, there are 113 unicorns that are valued at over $1 billion. 113, the total value of which is combined to more than $350 billion.